Hey everyone, and welcome back. We're doing a deep dive today, head first into all things Ethereum.
Yeah, it's exciting.
It is. Lately, there's been a lot of, that FUD fear, uncertainty, doubt around ETH, especially its price.
Yeah, I've seen that.
So we're going to cut through that noise today. We've got a ton of research and articles, and we're going to focus on 5 of the biggest criticisms of ETH and see if they actually hold any water.
Awesome. Let's dive in.
All right, first up, is Ethereum really too slow and too expensive? Yeah, when I see those transaction fees right around like $4.60 while Solana's are pennies,
Right.
and the speed difference, 15 transactions per second versus Solana's potential 4,000,
Huge difference.
it makes you want to just kind of throw in the towel.
Yeah, it's tempting to just write it off, but those higher fees on Ethereum, they actually tell us something. People are willing to pay that premium to use it.
Okay.
It means they see the value there. Would you pay more for a product that you trusted and you knew worked?
I see your point. Yeah, that's a good way to think about it.
Yeah.
So maybe higher fees aren't automatically a bad thing.
Right.
But what about the speed? How do you reconcile that?
Well, remember those crazy high fees that we saw a while back, $50 or more?
Oh, yeah.
They're way down now. And it's because of something called Layer 2 scaling solutions.
Okay.
Think of L2s, like express lanes, helping Ethereum process all those transactions way more efficiently without sacrificing the security of the main blockchain.
Yeah, the L2s. It's like a new one popping up every week, it seems like.
I know it's almost become a meme at this point.
It really has.
But this kind of, explosion of innovation, it just shows how active and how vibrant the Ethereum community is.
That's a good point. Okay, so maybe the speed and cost issues aren't as big of a deal as some people make them out to be.
Right.
But what about the argument that Ethereum's just too complex, for the average person? All those upgrades, the layer 2s, now we're hearing about layer 3s on the horizon.
Yeah.
It's like trying to learn a whole new language.
Yeah, you're not wrong. It can be a little intimidating.
Yeah.
But that complexity is what allows for some really groundbreaking stuff to happen. I mean,
Right.
We've got DeFi ERC20 tokens, stablecoins, NFTs, DAOs. All these revolutionary technologies were born on Ethereum. Would we have those if it was simple?
Right. That's a good point.
Yeah, so it's a trade-off.
Complexity can be a barrier to entry, but it's also the foundation for all this innovation.
And remember, it's got this huge active developer community, constantly working on it, making it better.
Yeah.
Think of it like a city under construction, always evolving, always improving, but still functioning.
That's reassuring because I know some people worry that, all these constant upgrades are going to make it unstable.
Sure, but they're doing a really good job of keeping everything running smoothly. And they're
Right.
trying to simplify things and improve that user experience.
That's good to hear.
There's actually an upgrade in the works called Petra.
Petra, okay.
It's going to try and streamline a lot of those complexities.
Petra, I'll have to look into that. But before we go too far down that rabbit hole, let's talk about another concern. Centralization. There's this growing worry that ETH is becoming less decentralized. And that's especially true when it comes to staking.
Yeah, there are two main issues that people are talking about. One is that you need 32 ETH to be a validator,
Yeah, right.
which obviously favors those bigger players.
Yeah.
And then a lot of those layer 2s, they rely on a single sequencer node, which creates a vulnerability.
So those high staking requirements, doesn't that mean that only the ETH whales, the people with tons of ETH can even participate? That doesn't sound very decentralized.
It is true that that high barrier to entry, it favors the people with, significant holdings, but it was a deliberate design choice.
Oh, okay.
The idea is to encourage those big ETH whales to become validators, which in the long run actually makes things more decentralized.
I see.
And did you know there are over 1 million active validators on the network right now?
Wow, 1 million. That's a lot more than I thought. What about those liquid staking pools like Lido? Don't those kind of concentrate power in one place?
That's a fair point. And, they do represent a good portion of the staked ETH, but they still contribute to those multi-validator setups because of that 32 ETH requirement. And they've been very careful not to exceed, a certain threshold that could disrupt the network.
So it's not quite as simple as it seems.
Yeah, it's a bit of a balancing act.
Okay, so liquid staking is, maybe not as black and white as some people make it out to be. But what about the layer 2 sequencer issue? Having a single node that could potentially, bring the whole system down sounds pretty scary.
You're right. It's a valid concern, and the developers are working on it.
Okay. Good to hear. What are they looking at?
Well, one promising avenue is something called based rollups.
Based roll-ups, okay.
Yeah, they're designed to tackle that centralization problem by using multiple sequencer nodes, and then they allow for better communication between the different layer twos.
So based roll-ups could fix that sequencer vulnerability and help different layer twos, work together more smoothly.
Yeah, exactly. Now, implementing them on a large scale isn't going to be easy, and there are some hurdles to overcome.
Of course, there's always a catch. What's the holdup?
Well, those current layer 2 operators, they're hesitant to switch over because they would lose that revenue from having their single sequencer set up. It's tough to convince someone to change when they're making good money, even if it is better for everyone in the long run.
Right. Change is hard, especially when profits are involved. Hopefully, we'll see those based roll-ups, become more widely adopted.
Yeah, as that focus on decentralization intensifies.
Well, it's definitely something to watch.
Okay.
So we've tackled speed, complexity, centralization now. I think it's time to address the big one that's on everyone's mind, ETH's price.
Yeah, the elephant in the room. It's no secret that it's been lagging behind Bitcoin,
It has.
especially recently.
And it's been a bit unnerving, to be honest, as an ETH holder.
Yeah, I get it.
What's behind this underperformance? Is this a sign that Ethereum is losing its edge?
Not necessarily. There are a few things going on. First, those spot ETH ETFs that everyone was so excited about.
Yeah.
They haven't really performed that well.
No, they haven't.
And ETH has been on a downward trend against Bitcoin since September of 2022.
It makes you wonder if ETH has seen its best days. What do you think?
I think it's important to look at the bigger picture. That lackluster performance of those ETH ETFs is probably due to broader market conditions affecting all altcoins, not just Ethereum.
Okay.
We're in what they call a risk-off environment, global uncertainty, a potential recession on the horizon. It pushes investors toward what they see as the safest bet, and that tends to be Bitcoin.
So it's more about the overall market sentiment and less about Ethereum itself.
Exactly. But, in the long term, I think Ethereum is really well positioned to attract that institutional investment because it's focused on innovation, decentralization, security.
I agree. Those are its strengths. But what about its price against Bitcoin? Is there any chance it could catch up?
I think so, and here's why. Those spot ETH ETFs, despite their slow start, they still offer a much easier way for large-scale investment to flow from Bitcoin to ETH. And you just don't see that with most other altcoins.
That's true.
So if those big institutions are looking for the next big thing,
They're going to look at ETH.
yeah, ETH seems like the logical choice. It's got that proven track record.
Yeah.
And, if you look at the technical analysis, there are some hints that ETH might be getting ready for a price surge against Bitcoin. You should check out those charts, especially the monthly view.
I'll definitely be doing that. This is all really interesting stuff. But before we get too carried away predicting the future, let's step back and look at what we've covered so far.
Sounds good.
We've talked about speed, complexity, centralization. We've even touched on liquidity and inflation. And now we've talked about ETH's price.
It's a lot to take in.
It is. But, it's clear that Ethereum has its challenges, but it also has massive potential.
For sure. And what I find so fascinating is how it keeps pushing those boundaries of what's possible with blockchain technology. It always makes you wonder what new innovations and opportunities are going to come out of it.
That is a great question, and one that we are going to try to answer when we come back.
Can't wait. All right, so let's dig into this concern that Ethereum is suffering from fragmented liquidity and could be facing some inflation issues.
Okay.
These two things are actually linked, and they both kind of stem from those efficient layer 2s that we were just talking about.
Okay, I'm following so far. But how do efficient L2s lead to these problems?
Well, think about it this way, because layer 2s are so much faster and cheaper. A lot of users are opting to just completely avoid the main Ethereum network altogether.
Okay.
And this creates what we call liquidity silos, where users and their funds are spread out across all these different layer 2s.
This is like everyone's hanging out in their own little layer 2 bubble.
Yeah, exactly.
And they're not interacting with the main Ethereum chain as much.
Right, and that raises these concerns about, fragmentation. It's like the overall ETH ecosystem is becoming less cohesive.
Okay, I see. And how does this tie into the inflation worries for ETH?
Well, with fewer transactions happening on that main Ethereum chain, fewer fees are being burned.
Right.
And this can lead to more ETH inflation because, remember, Ethereum uses that fee-burning mechanism to help control the supply of ETH.
Right, I remember reading about that. So does this mean that the rise of these L2s is ultimately bad for ETH?
Not necessarily. It's important to remember that even though people are using those layer 2s more, They still need ETH for things like trading pairs and collateral in DeFi.
So even if I'm primarily using an L2, I still need ETH to actually, make things work.
Exactly. So that means that overall demand for ETH shouldn't go down. It could even increase as the ecosystem grows and more people get onboarded.
Okay, that makes sense. Are there any solutions on the horizon for these concerns about liquidity and inflation?
Well, you guessed it, based rollups.
Those base rollups again.
They could really play a key role here because they can boost that interoperability between those layer twos and the main chain,
Okay.
which, could help bridge those silos and encourage more activity back on that main Ethereum network.
Right. More activity, more fees burned, less inflation. It's a base rollups have the potential to fix a lot of these problems.
They really do. But we already talked about those challenges of getting those L2 operators to kind of get on board with it. It's not a quick fix, but it's something that people are talking about.
Yeah, this is definitely something to keep an eye on. Okay, we've talked about speed, complexity, centralization, liquidity, and inflation. I think it's time to address the big one that's on everyone's mind, ETH's price.
Yeah, the elephant in the room. It's no secret that ETH has been lagging behind Bitcoin, especially recently.
Yeah, and honestly, it's been a bit unnerving, as an ETH holder myself.
Yeah, I get it.
What's behind this underperformance? Is it a sign that Ethereum is losing its edge to some of these other cryptocurrencies?
Not necessarily. There are a few things to unpack here. First, the performance of those spot ETH ETFs, that everyone was so excited about.
Yeah,
Well, it's been kind of underwhelming.
it has.
And ETH has been on a downward trend against Bitcoin since September 2022.
It's enough to make you wonder, if ETH's best days are behind it. What do you think?
Well, I think we need to look at the bigger picture here. That kind of lackluster performance of those ETH ETFs is probably due to broader market conditions that are affecting all the altcoins, not just Ethereum.
Okay.
We are in what they call a risk-off environment. You've got global uncertainty, a potential recession, looming on the horizon.
Right.
And that tends to push investors towards what they see as the safest bet, and that tends to be Bitcoin.
So it's more about overall market sentiment and less about, anything specific to Ethereum's fundamentals.
Exactly. But I think in the long term, Ethereum is very well positioned to attract institutional investment because it's focused on those fundamentals,
Right.
the innovation, the decentralization, the security.
Right, I agree. Those have always been Ethereum's strengths. But what about its price against Bitcoin? Is there any chance it could catch up?
I think so, and here's why. Those spot ETH ETFs, despite their, kind of slow start, they still offer an easier on-ramp for that large-scale investment to flow from Bitcoin to ETH.
Okay.
And you just don't see that with most other altcoins.
No.
So if those big institutional players are looking for, the next big thing,
They're going to look at ETH.
ETH seems like the logical choice. It's got that proven track record. And if you look at the technical analysis, there are hints that ETH might be setting up for a price surge against Bitcoin.
Okay.
I encourage you to check out those charts, especially that monthly view.
I'll be doing that. This is all really insightful stuff. But
Yeah.
before we get too carried away with it, predicting the future, let's take a step back and kind of recap what we've covered so far.
Sounds good.
So we've talked about speed, complexity, centralization, liquidity, and inflation.
Mm-hmm.
And now we've even touched on ETH's price.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground.
We have. And, it's clear that Ethereum has its challenges,
Yeah,
but it's also evident that it has massive potential.
absolutely. What I find so fascinating is how Ethereum just keeps pushing those boundaries of what's possible with blockchain technology.
Yeah.
It always makes you wonder what new innovations and opportunities are going to emerge as it continues to evolve.
That is a great question, and one that we're going to try to answer when we come back for the third and final part of our deep dive on Ethereum.
I can't wait.
All right, we're back for the final part of our Ethereum deep dive. We've covered a ton of ground, from debunking FUD to analyzing those upcoming upgrades and, dissecting those potential price movements. Now I'm even more curious about what the future holds for ETH. So what are some of those key trends that you're watching?
One trend that I find really exciting is this whole rise of decentralized autonomous organizations, those DAOs.
DAOs, yeah, I hear that term everywhere, but I'm still a little fuzzy on, the specifics. Can you break it down for us? Like, what are they and why are they such a big deal?
Absolutely. So basically, DAOs are these community-governed entities. They have no central authority. It's like a digital cooperative where members can vote on proposals, make decisions collectively.
So it's like digital democracy, but for, organizations and projects.
That's a great way to put it. And, Ethereum is really the leading platform for DAO creation and governance.
Okay, so what makes Ethereum so well suited for these DAOs?
Well, it comes down to those smart contract capabilities. Those smart contracts, they allow developers to create those rules and mechanisms that govern a DAO. It enables transparent, automated decision
I
making.
see. So how are DAOs actually being used out there in the real world?
Oh, the applications are super diverse. I mean, people are using them to manage investment funds, coordinate open source projects, build these decentralized social networks, even govern virtual worlds.
Wow, it's like they have the potential to completely revolutionize how we, organize and collaborate.
I think so too. And I think we're really just scratching the surface of what DAOs can do.
It's mind-boggling when you think about all the possibilities. What other trends are you excited about?
Another one is the convergence of DeFi and NFTs.
DeFi and NFTs, two of the hottest trends in crypto. How are those coming together?
Well, we're starting to see these NFTs that represent ownership of real world assets like real estate or physical artwork.
So instead of just having like a digital image of a piece of art,
Right.
you could have an NFT that actually represents ownership of the physical painting.
Exactly. And then these NFTs can be used as collateral in DeFi protocols, which opens up a whole world of liquidity and financing opportunities.
That's huge. Like it could transform how we think about, asset ownership and investment.
Yeah, I think so too. And that's just, one example of how DeFi and NFTs are kind of merging. I expect we'll see, even more innovative applications emerge in the next few years.
Okay, this is all super fascinating, but let's bring it back down to earth for a minute.
Yeah.
What does all this mean for someone who's considering investing in ETH today?
Well, like with any investment, it's important to do your own research and understand the risks involved. But I think Ethereum has the potential to be a truly transformative technology, one with, significant long-term value.
So it's not just about, you know, the price of ETH itself, but the potential of the entire Ethereum ecosystem.
Exactly. When you invest in ETH, you're placing a bet on the future of decentralized technology.
Hmm.
You're becoming part of a movement that's changing the world.
That's a powerful message. It's not just about, potential profits. It's about being part of something much bigger.
Exactly. And, I believe Ethereum has the power to empower individuals, create new opportunities, and build a more equitable and decentralized future.
I'm feeling inspired. This has been an incredible deep dive into, the world of Ethereum. We've covered so much.
It has been quite a journey. We've explored those challenges and triumphs, the FUD and the facts and the extraordinary potential, that lies ahead.
I definitely feel like I have a much deeper understanding of, Ethereum now. And I'm even more excited about what the future holds.
That's great to hear. And for those who want to, dive even deeper into some of the things we've talked about today, be sure to check out the website link in the description. You'll find more information and full reports there.
Great reminder. Well, on that note, I think it's time to wrap up this epic Ethereum adventure.
It has been an exciting exploration, but remember, this is just the beginning of your journey into this world of decentralized technology. Keep exploring, keep learning, keep pushing those boundaries, of what's possible.
Wise words. And to all of our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive into Ethereum. We hope you enjoyed the ride.
Until next time, stay curious and stay tuned for more fascinating deep dives into the world of blockchain and beyond.